Yeah, I don't know if that was that quick, but it looks like we're live. What's
Yeah,
up, guys? I think we are. I see Ryan's here. Andre, my loyal, is here. Keith's here. I'm here as well. I see Nathan's here. What's up, guys? Welcome back to a stream. I said we weren't going to do a Friday stream. Last time we were chatting together because I thought I'd be back on radio, but we have a guest tonight that I couldn't miss out on. Sean, welcome to Walking Toward GMAT to the channel. Glad to have you here. And
absolutely
yeah,
chuffed to be
take it
here.
away. Introduce us. Let my people know who you are. The famous Irish film award-winning man.
Yeah, well, basically, thank you very much, first of all, for having me on, Gareth. It's an
No, you're
absolute
welcome, man.
pleasure. But yeah, as you can see, I'm from Ireland. I've got the Irish hat, the Irish jersey on. I've whipped out the Irish jersey. It's been a while since I popped this guy on, so I'm chuffed to be wearing it again. By far my favorite top. But yeah, anyways, basically, I'm an Irish filmmaker. I make YouTube videos. I also make short films. And I'm also a full-time student. But basically, yeah, I'm so passionate about filmmaking, and I then basically incorporate quite a cinematic style into my YouTube videos. So I upload videos onto my YouTube channel Stellar, where I've got 25. I think I've got 25,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
And
you're doing well.
yeah,
Links are in
yeah,
bio,
thank you.
guys, for those who want to check. All the links are down below, so go check them out.
Thank you so much, dude. But yeah, then I've got my second channel where I make my short films, and I kind of just try and incorporate a pretty cinematic style into I suppose my brand. And I can make very philosophical videos a lot of the time, and on my Instagram page, Stellar Sean, and Twitter, etc. Those are all just fun. But then sometimes, every now and again, on my main channel, Stellar, I will make a video about some sort of rugby story that really interests me. So I think my first one was back in 2018 when my dad and I flew to England for the Grand Slam final, basically game between Ireland and England in 2018, which we won. We flew over that morning to Twickenham without
What a game
tickets.
that was.
Yeah, that was fantastic. One of the best days of my life. And we literally got a ticket. I think it was 30 minutes before kickoff for I think it was a price lower than the actual ticket fee usually, and it was just an absolute it was such a dream. And so I made a video about that, and that was my first time really beginning to follow rugby. In fact, Ireland Wales that year was my first time at a rugby match that wasn't a school rugby match. So that was a pleasure. And then towards the end of that year, I then made a video. Well, actually, I made a little video when my dad and I went to Bilbao to see Leinster beat Racing to win the Heineken Cup. That was amazing as well. But the next big rugby story, I suppose, that came out, I suppose, for me then, yeah, was what was it? It was Ireland beating the All Blacks in Dublin, November 17th, 2018. Probably the best night of my life. You literally, as you just mentioned there, what a game. It was, what a dream. When Jacob Stockdale scored that try, I'll never forget that moment. And when the final whistle was blown, unfortunately, when the All Black player dropped the ball, but for me, it was just an absolute dream. I was in heaven, pure ecstasy in that moment. And I got to make a film about that with Tony Ward, the Irish rugby legend. And that was one of my one of my favorite videos I've made. And so that kind of all then led together to the end of 2019 when I decided to make a documentary with a friend about the Bedford Blues, which is a championship team in England. So basically the league below the Premiership, for anyone who doesn't know. And yeah, we made that documentary, which was such it was a big step up for me as a filmmaker, using equipment that I was still slightly unfamiliar with. And yeah, I suppose that's why I'm here. You know what I mean? We filmed it in December, got to meet the players, got to meet the local community, and just really kind of break down what the Bedford Blues means to the surrounding community. And I actually don't know if I would have finished the documentary if quarantine hadn't have happened, which is really funny, because it took so long to edit. I was absolutely I was very lucky to have that time throughout March to sit down and just work on it all day, every day. And finally, I was able to release it at the middle of April. So April 15th, 2020, I released More Than Just a Game, which was my new documentary. It was such a big project for me, and it really kind of captured my perspective on rugby. And so far, it seems to have kind of just like inspired a lot of people with their love for the sport, and it's great to see. And it was just an honor to make. Yeah, that's basically my general story.
What a story it is. And for those who don't know about the documentary, the link is down in the description. And what really attracted me to it was one of the key lines he said is sport, money, community. There were or rugby, money, and the community. Three very important aspects that we often talk about is what are players playing for? And we'll get into that. I want to first go back to the Ireland-New Zealand game because the memories that I can even share that with my good friend who's on here, Dupi or Andre Dupre. And I can remember we were sitting in one of our local pubs and we were watching it. And I was going berserk for that game because of the following that had been. And we've discussed this before we went live, is that the Irish community took to this channel in a whole new level. And it really helped grow. And to get that connection was amazing. And when I think I did 2 or 3 videos saying that the Ireland could beat the All Blacks, and a lot of people said, "Nah, not going to happen." You wishful thinking, and when it did, I still remember. I said Ireland versus New Zealand recap. Well done, Ireland! It was just amazing, and my mate turned around to me and he said, "You called it." And it was a phenomenal time for Irish rugby of the year of Joe Schmidt, what he did with that team that year, Six Nations, Grand Slam, everything. It was just remarkable. And it was one of the moments I think that really just sealed the deal for Ireland. And
Yeah.
I know that's gonna be a question from a few of the guys, especially the Irish ones, coming in, even comment section later after this video or this stream. Is talking about them from a World Cup, and we'll get into that. But let's go back to you and your documentary. I mean, that was really an eye opener for me personally as a fan, just bringing the sport and giving the tribute back to the community. And again, like I said, the question we've always asked is, are they playing for money or are they playing for the sport? And we too watch these guys leave their small communities to go overseas and grab opportunities. So the work you did in that, and it was your commentary that really got me hooked onto it. Just everything of it, of how with the Bedford Blues and all that was truly remarkable. What inspired you to create that video?
Yeah,
or the documentary, sorry.
No, yeah, you're good. Don't worry. Basically, initially, actually, the idea was to make a documentary about Leinster versus Munster, which is a huge rugby rivalry for anyone who doesn't know here in Ireland. I think
I'm South African and I know that. That is huge. Conor Murray versus Johnny.
Exactly.
What a rivalry.
I know. Now, in 2009, in the Heineken Cup semi-finals, obviously, like that was kind of the peak of the rivalry, right? But then in 2018, there was a seriously intense game at Christmas that year, which for me kind of brought it back to life. The rivalry was just so fiery, so intense. With Joey Carberry's move down to Munster as well, it was really quite an intense game. And so that whole year I was thinking, right, I think I'm going to make a Leinster versus Munster documentary. And of course, then I began to realize, hang on a minute, these guys are actually really hard to get in contact with. I would need quite a big budget to actually get to know a lot of the players I'd want to talk to. And so basically, I talked to a producer who I often work with, who I'd worked with before in a documentary, kind of just trying to generate this rugby idea. And he basically said, that might be something we can push like for further down the line. We'll discuss different ideas for now. And so we kind of went back and forth, what idea would work. And then he said to me, I actually live in Bedford and I want to bounce a few ideas off of you. Basically, this club has some really amazing stories behind it. One of which relates to one Christmas when basically, I think there was, 5 minutes left of the game, and Bedford they were losing by a lot. They scored 3 tries in 5 minutes to win the game, a Boxing Day game. And then there were also
Wow.
stories, yeah, like that was absolutely incredible in and of itself. And then there were other stories where, for example, as is discussed in the documentary, on the day of a game, the pitch was completely covered in snow. And what happened was Bedford basically called out for the local community to come and shovel up the snow. And hundreds of people showed up to take the snow off the pitch that day. And as soon as I heard those stories, I said, right, there's a story to tell about the community here with the Bedford Blues that I really would like to put and transform into a film. So we instantly got to work. We started generating ideas, and at the same time of making this, all of the news was coming out about Saracens. And we basically said, right, I
Yes.
think that's kind of what really filtered the discussion about money versus love into it. And
Yes.
it was a really, yeah, that's the kind of the theme we went with the documentary, and that we worked through that kind of like all through September up until December. And then beginning of December, I headed to Bedford. We filmed the documentary, and it's been that like history. The rest is history. Yeah.
No, that's truly remarkable, and credit to you for the work you did on that, because just everything about that. I mean, as a South African, we don't always, the beauty of European rugby and sport is there's a lot of history to it, and the history
Yeah.
is so well regarded and respected. And it's I think one of our faults is because, we might have a team that's weak, and we tend to forget about them. We focus on up top, for example, if compared to rugby, Super Rugby teams, the Sharks, the Stormers, the Bulls, all of that. That's your big names, but we forget about teams that you might not even know, the Falker, the Griquas, who are, hearts of South African rugby, have been there, who have been fighting, just never got the opportunity. And I think that's such a key goal, is to acknowledge these communities and take it to those levels by introducing it once again. And community, and I think that was your slogan, is so powerful to together to just evolve rugby and sport in general. And I think it's just one of the key factors that we are missing. And we were on our Zoom meeting earlier, just talking about the appreciation of sport in general. The fans. There's so much negativity. You read a comment, you look at it, and it's like, this person doesn't like South Africa or England or Australia or Ireland, whoever the hell they may be, because of history or heritage or whatever it may be. Whereas if we all just get along and pick up a beer or pick up a drink or pick up a meal, whatever it may be, and watch the sport together in a respective manner, mate, we can change we can evolve the community in a whole nother level. I mean, look at it. Last time Ireland played the Springboks, you guys thumped us in a world record score. I technically shouldn't be talking to you right now, but I because of the love and respect for Ireland, the team, and also just the way you guys have all treated me. So I'm going to give you that exact same respect. And I think that's the power of rivalries that we're seeing in sport. New Zealand, South Africa, there's such a bond and a rivalry that everyone wants to see. And talking of us leaving Six Nations, which I'll give you that question later as well, and leaving Rugby Championship, joining Six Nations, all that jazz. People don't want to lose the heritage that we've built and grown. So it's an interesting time and world we're living in. And I think for us youngsters, okay, you're a lot younger than me, but for us new content creators, let's put it that way, to grow up in the sport in this time, especially this year, where we face so many challenges, where we don't even know when we will see a crowd in the stadium again, or when we will see, a physical contact sport, because of the challenges of the new rules that have been introduced, which we'll get in on another day. But it's just crazy. But going back to what you said, it brings a community together, which is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And like we discussed that beforehand. We were literally talking about what motivates us in general as human beings,
Yes.
not just related to rugby. And what we kind of landed at was people. People lift us up, whether it's friends, family, subscribers, people commenting on this stream right now, the legends. All like people are what lift us up. And then we came back to the point that that's kind of what rugby's here to do. It's here to bring us all together. And that's like by far my favorite part of the sport. The fact that like I could become best friends in a day with someone I've never met before, simply because we're discussing a rugby team. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why rugby is so powerful. And like, I find myself always, I think, naturally gravitating towards the huge games, Ireland versus England, Leinster versus Saracens. You know what I mean? And that's where this documentary really kind of challenged my interest in rugby, because I didn't make, like, I'm almost glad I didn't initially make the Leinster versus Munster documentary, because I'd kind of be sitting on what I already know. But making a documentary about the Bedford Blues completely opened my eyes to this other world of rugby, which is the championship, etc. And to see the smaller teams that don't get as much love
Exactly.
on the international stage, it was absolutely fantastic and completely eye-opening. And I was just, it was so amazing to see the support that this small team can get in one town in England. I can't even put into words how passionate the people are in Bedford towards that team. It's absolutely inspiring to see, and it kind of changed my attitude towards rugby. You mentioned there at the beginning of your comments that it is it's really, like, you know, crucial to not forget about the smaller teams, and that's why I was so happy to make that documentary. And it's something I would love to do in the future again, tell stories about the smaller teams, because, you know, I think that's quite important to do.
It really is, and it made us think. For us being in South Africa, we've got, obviously, the Super Rugby didn't finish, so we've got a lot of waiting around to do, and what next. So New Zealand are starting up with their provincial tournament. We've got Australia as well. We unfortunately have to wait a little bit longer because we're still in strict lockdown mode. But Heinrich, who will probably be on later, he made a comment, one of my fellow subscribers, and he said, how can we do something to spice up our provincial league? So we got the Currie Cup, which is one of the oldest provincial tournaments, I think, in rugby in general. And it's igniting these smaller teams, like we mentioned, that we don't necessarily talk about or credit, and giving them the opportunity of a grand stage, but also taking it to another level in order to, for now, we don't have a scheduled tournament, create something big and bring in big players, like split up the whole Springbok squad and put them in these teams that you never thought would ever play for a Springbok squad, or go back to the heritage that they belong. Siya Kolisi going back to the Southern Kings or the Eastern Province, where he never really got to shine because he went straight into Western or Stormers, where he took the world by storm. So by generating that, it also gives another person an opportunity to really ignite with those smaller provinces that we don't necessarily think of on a daily basis. So it's just, there's so many ideas that are coming up, I think, in this time where we can really credit these smaller nations or smaller provincial teams and give them the opportunity of something special that they maybe never in their lives thought they would actually ever be able to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be difficult when we go back, no doubt, because obviously, where was I going to go with that? Oh yeah, you know, we mentioned just there, like, when rugby does come back, it's almost important. It's very important for us to literally rush back to rugby, to go into all of the stadiums that we can, to support the unions, to support the individual clubs, because we're talking about the smaller clubs here. But even like, I hope I'm correct in saying this, there were rumors of 5 Premiership clubs going bankrupt, and like that's like the top league in England. You know what I mean? So we have to support everyone, and I think it's going to be difficult to balance. It's going to be a bit of a, you know, balancing act of like supporting the clubs, but it's just so crucial that for those of us who have the actual both financial and physical ability to support these teams physically in the clubs, it's very important that we just head right back to rugby as soon as it returns.
I fully agree, and I mean, like you say, the Premiership teams that are surprising when it's so big in England or in the UK, Europe. I mean, if we look at Australia, for example, I mean, they are going through the massive financial state where it's a World Cup winning, 2-time World Cup winning country. They've won Super Rugby Championships, which is the Southern Hemisphere biggest, and they are sitting in the worst state, worse than what USA are. And I mean, USA, we don't even count in a league of tier one nation right now. But the fact that someone said USA are declaring bankruptcy or whatever it may be, but then the other said, but Australia's in a totally worse situation. And and it's terrifying at what COVID-19 and this whole situation can do to destroy, and how it's important for us to really appreciate what we've got. And we were on this topic earlier this evening, saying when rugby does come back, for those who can witness it live, need to rush back and watch it and appreciate it again, because those are the people who are going to need it. Those stadiums, those teams are going to need the fans' tickets in order for us to really go back in and enjoy the game again.
Exactly. But you know, seeing things like this situation with Australia, and I think I'm not sure if you're familiar with Squid Rugby, but he pointed it out. Like,
yeah, very familiar with it.
USA, they were coming up the ranks. Like, obviously there was a lot of hope for them going into the World Cup. They didn't exactly act on it. Tonga getting that great comeback, which for me I think was kind of an underrated game, Tonga USA. Yes. But yeah, like, you know, the USA, they were already struggling going into the World Cup, but they were really coming up the ranks. They had some fantastic players coming in. So to see that happen to them is honestly just like, it's a bit crushing. And then obviously you look at the bigger picture here with Australia, and it is quite scary. But all we can do on this side, well, at the moment, for the time being anyways, the best thing that we can do right now is just head right back to the clubs and support them as much as we possibly can.
Couldn't agree more. And just to add on that USA topic, and I'd like to get your opinion, especially you being a creator in film and you know the Hollywood world and all that stuff. I've always stated on the channel, and going forward, and like investing in America, and 4-4 rugby, by the way, is a good way to really pick up the sport. Because if we look at football right now, it's taking the world by storm with money and the amount of the salaries that these guys earn. I mean, the top rugby player earning is Andre Pollard, I think, and Messi makes it his year's salary in a week, which is absolutely shocking and ridiculous in a weird way.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, we should be talking to these smaller nations, all these nations with big pockets. And I mean, I know it's easy said than done, and we are in a crisis right now. But for future or past that we should have capitalized on is investing in the States, like what America's, New Zealand's doing. They've got Silver Lake that apparently are looking to invest big in All Black rugby, which is going to take it to a totally another level, which could mean they can pull their own ranks of creating their own tournaments, bringing in tours. And I feel if we introduce the sport more and more to America, I mean, baseball, one of the most popular, basketball, American football, all of that is in America, and it's so money generated. If we can put our focus there, and if World Rugby uses the mindset and the brain in order to take it there, we could see something quite unique and different going forward, and it could take them to another level, I think, if we introduce it there.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I believe, I'm not too familiar with the situation, but as far as I'm concerned, there are efforts, maybe not. Obviously, you know, it's not the core focus of World Rugby right now. You know, they're focusing on the new people in power there, etc. But like, I think there are efforts, but there needs to be more focus. And this even covers then the Pacific Islands topic as well, with the lack of funding towards teams like Fiji, etc. Like, they are genuinely pure class teams to watch, and even they aren't getting the support. So I would happily, like, I mean, this obviously is not the solution, but I would happily like not have a Six Nations one year if it meant all of the money that was put into that was put towards these teams. You know what I mean? Because like, more competition around the world is what we want. We don't want, let's say, like, you know what I mean? We don't want 4 teams in the, we don't want 5 teams in the Six Nations versus like basically, you know, pretty much 3 teams in the Southern Hemisphere. We don't, well, now with Australia might even be out of that equation, but we don't want just like 7 or 8 competitive teams across the globe. Like that just makes the sport a little bit boring. Imagine if like there were annual tests between the USA and, as far-fetched as it might sound, the All Blacks. How, like, if that was intense rivalry, what would the sport of rugby look like? How much more people would be involved? The same thing goes for everything. Like, I think more competition across the board will only be of benefit to the sport. And like all we can really ask for is more support from the people who have the power to like basically spread out this support. We just need to ask for more and more dedicated towards these teams, because obviously the Six Nations, their money rackets, the Rugby Championship money racket, but like we can't put all our eggs in one basket. The sport won't survive if we just keep putting all of our like dreams into the things we like usually.
And that was one of the things that I was saying is how we're going to, in this time where we're waiting and like seeing how the world's currently at, how are we going to ignite, how are we going to bring the sport back to the fans? And we all came up with the idea, and I think a lot of people agreed with me, was to bring back the old school, the international tours that you and I, a lot of people here, were probably way too young enough to even know what it was about. I mean, 96, okay, that was before your time, but I mean, I was 5 years old. I wouldn't know, but that was the last time an international real tour was going. Now we wait every 4 years for the British and Irish Lions to tour a Southern Hemisphere team, which is amazing, and it's exciting, and it brings up hype. But if we can, like you actually said, no, take a year away from Six Nations, Rugby Championship, all that stuff, and focus it on international tours, I think it would be able to just ignite the sport and bring back history. And then, going back to our topic, which you bring in your documentary, is giving these community sport or these provincial nations an opportunity to be recognized. I mean, for a team like South Africa, okay, the Sharks have played them before, but to play a team like the All Blacks, it's not the Lions I was thinking of, but for a Sharks versus Griquas, which is a team up in South Africa that no one knows about from overseas, or Bedford Blues, like you mentioned, playing against the Springboks or the All Blacks or England, whoever it may be, not England, but Ireland, the gist. If that could be reintroduced, I just it's going to take the sport to another level, and we will appreciate provincial rugby even more, because I think we're losing that at the moment. We're too focused on, Stuart Hogg has left the Pro 14 Glasgow Warriors to go join the French league or wherever it is for a bigger deal. Andre Pollard leaves the Bulls to go play for Montpellier, I think it is, and he's one of the highest paid rugby players in the world. Dan Carter, he's now left the All Blacks to go overseas. Now he's going to go to America. All we're hearing is they're leaving for these massive deals of money. We're not hearing about the history, the sport, the passion. And I think bringing tours back allows that opportunity for us to reintroduce something special that we've clearly lost.
100%. I actually just finished the book, The Oval World. It took me way too long to read that book, but The Oval World by Tony Collins, it's a complete basically explanation of the global history of rugby, and I could not believe how many international tours there used to be, but not only how many international tours there used to be. I mean, it was basically how the sport was ran back then. Obviously the Five Nations has been the Five Nations before the Six Nations was going on quite a while, but the international tours were such a important factor of rugby, and I couldn't believe how many times Canada and the USA were involved. Because you look at the sport now, you would never have thought about that, but Canada and the USA were all over it. Now they never actually were still very good at it, but they were always involved. We need to get back to that point. And you mentioned their provinces against national teams. The last one I remember happening in Ireland is Munster versus the All Blacks, and I think it was around 2006. I could be wrong in saying that, but it's been that long ago since a province played a huge international team, and now it's really just kind of the Maoris that are going around doing those games. So we need, I mean, it's exactly what it sounds obvious, and it might be, but it's just we need a more diversity in the sport, and as Leinster say, it's from the ground up, because what we're talking about here is international tours between big teams. Well, I say big, but USA versus the All Blacks, putting more focus on those types of games, or Canada versus Scotland more often, etc. Instead of just doing the ones that we all normally think of, where it's Scotland, Ireland, Scotland. Well, okay, those aren't ones we usually think of, but you know what I mean. Tier 1 nations. We need to actually have these, like the quote unquote smaller teams. We need to start building them up from the ground up. You know what I mean? We need to have the USA's provincial clubs. We need to build them very strong. But it's tough to know where to start. I'm obviously not working at World Rugby. I'm not actually too sure how difficult it actually is. So obviously this is just all theoretical things. But I think no matter what, to put it simply, these parts of the game just need to be focused on more. You know what I mean? Like, without a doubt, the provincial games, the smaller clubs that don't get enough attention, for example, the Bedford Blues, and definitely, sorry, where was I going with that? I completely forgot. But basically the smaller nations and the smaller clubs, we need to put more love into those. Simple as.
I agree. While we're at it, let's just have a look quickly at the comments, because I see a lot of people are chatting along. Heinrich has joined. What's up, buddy? Welcome to the stream. There's a lot. Willem's going mad with comments talking about Australia and the history. We've got London Gardens, the fellow Harlequin here who loves that team. One of the questions for you, Sean, Nathan says, how well respected, and I think this is the obvious question, is Brian O'Driscoll in Ireland?
Oh, I mean, I don't even have to.
I can tell you that in South Africa.
How do I put it into words? Like my dad and I, well, actually, I was very fortunate in the year I got interested in rugby. It was 2018. Was the time I went to my first national game, first Ireland game. And that was the time when Ireland obviously got their Grand Slam. And my dad also got very interested at the time. And so he has a very vague understanding of how rugby, works, the international game. His go-to always in terms, okay, here's a good example. I'm not too sure if you've heard of The Last Dance, but it's a new show on Netflix about basketball, and it's it's absolutely class. It's so well made. It's kind of taking the world by storm. But my dad said to me last night, I'd be much more interested.
I think we're lost. Are you there? Or are you gone? I think we've lost Sean there. Hopefully you'll...
Sorry, we're back. Are we back?
You're back.
We're back. Apologies. I was saying. He basically said, I'd be much more interested in watching this series if it was about rugby and if it was about our heroes like Johnny Sexton or Bod. So not only is it like he considered an Irish hero, but they don't even call him by his name. They just call him by Bod, which I'm not sure if you made the recognition, but it rhymes with God. So you can probably, like
funny, Ireland is this it. I think Ireland will follow Bod more than the president. Don't know if Ireland has a president, but that's pretty much the line that he was going at. And I think we all agree. I mean, growing up myself, my dad always mentioned Brian O'Driscoll, and it's just his character. And it's an odd memory that I've got. But South Africa played Ireland, and I think we did beat them clearly. But I'll never forget O'Driscoll afterwards in the match presentation saying that he's looking forward to having drinks afterwards with the Springboks and having a good celebration of the tour.
Exactly.
And that just shows the character of him. But he was just genius in every aspect of rugby. He's one of the reasons I support Leinster and Ireland in general. He's a king.
I can't really put it into words, but I'll try and make similarities. It'd be kind of like the Rasdi Erasmus of South Africa, or the Jonah Lamu of New Zealand, and the Johnny Wilkinson of England. I can't really put it into words how huge this guy is here, but I met him once. I met him at Bilbao before the final. Didn't even get to say hi to him, but I got a selfie and I just smiled and said, "You're a legend." He's just such a nice guy. But yeah, there was an absolute swarm around that man. Basically, to put it simply, he is the god here in Ireland. He's just a king, and he is looked at as the top of the top, at least for us rugby fans, he is looked at as the top of the top. But yeah, it's his character. But not only that, like I was thinking about this recently, actually. In fact, in the show on Netflix, the Last Dance, it really goes into detail about Michael Jordan. He's kind of the center of it. And they just talked about how he was so incredible throughout his whole career. And it actually made me think about Brian O'Driscoll. Brian O'Driscoll at the start of his career was so fast, right? Like that hat trick against France in I believe it was in 2000 or 2001. You know, he had that speed. But obviously that doesn't last you your whole career. Michael Jordan had the drive, the passion, whereas Brian O'Driscoll had his speed. I'm sure he had those things as well, obviously, but that won't last you your whole career. He completely made up for it then in the later half of his career. His passing, his skill, his offloading, it all became just immaculate. And I think that is why he's regarded as one of the best. His vision for the game, his skills in the game, absolute genius. And I read his autobiography, and it was to this day the best book I've ever read. So
really,
he's a pure legend, to put it simply.
I wonder if we can get that in South Africa, because that's something I definitely want to get, because I mean, like everything you said there, it's just remarkable what he did. And in the tough times too, he was always a standout. If you watch Ireland play, people would look at him and you go, wow, just because of how he just never gives up and the attitude that he has. And it shows the greatness that Ireland has definitely produced and is still producing. And it brings me to a question that's probably a tough one for you. And I know a lot of guys ask me this, but do you think, and I know my answer, and I'll give it after you, Ireland will ever get either the World Cup semi-final or a World Cup?
I think we will win the World Cup. It's all a question of when. You know what I mean? No idea when. Yeah, I think unfortunately it's being built up to be too big a thing now, where like Irish teams are going into these quarterfinals. They are always now going in to make history. You know, Ireland play an international against, let's say, South Africa or Australia or like even like England and stuff. Like they might try. I'm trying to think of a really high stake game. Let's say Ireland versus the All Blacks in New Zealand. You know, if they're going to win there on their home turf, they're going there to make history, right? But unfortunately, no matter who this quarterfinal is against, when we actually have the opportunity, when Ireland is good enough, which will hopefully be the next World Cup, obviously, I think it's being built up to be too big a thing, to the point where, you know, no matter who they're playing, no matter where they're playing, home advantage, or they're playing a poor quarterfinal opponent, I think the pressure is just too big. So we're going to need a team that is not only physically very good, because I think this Irish team was physically as good as it needed to be. It was like the mental side of it is where the problem is, because the pressure going into any quarterfinal for Ireland now is just absolutely next level. We need a team that is so mentally strong and just saying, just saying like, you hopefully understand what I'm trying to get at here, but we need a team that can just look at a quarterfinal and say, this is just a normal game. We got this. Like, we're not putting too much pressure on ourselves, because I think that's when teams can crack. Obviously, not all teams do. We've seen it happen many times before where teams can put up with the pressure, but a lot of teams can't. And so we need a team that's very mentally strong. I think we can do it. It's just a matter of when. You know what I mean? Like, we're up there. We really are. I just, fingers crossed. You know what I mean? And I someone just commented there, wow, South Africa versus Ireland is not a high stake game. Yeah, I probably could have done without that. That was a poor example of me saying that. Ireland versus the All Blacks or Ireland versus South Africa, both huge stake games by this point. In fact, I was actually only recently discovered that you guys were meant to play us in November, as well as Japan.
Yes.
Dude, how good would those games have been? Heartbreaking. But
I was even more excited because I did the recap of when you guys thumped us, and I was at a world record score. But I think I started getting into the Irish public, but it was in 2017. But it was in that 2018 World Cup, Six Nations, where it grew. So because of all the following that has come around, I was so looking forward to streaming that game. and to really react into it. Ireland, South Africa, just to see, because last time we met, you thumped us. Now we're world champions. We're a
Yeah.
totally different team to what we were back then.
Oh,
It
100%.
would have been such a freaking good game. And who knows? Maybe we will still get it. It's still possible.
If that happens, it'll be a pure miracle, because Ireland, Japan, and Ireland, South Africa in Dublin is something I would pay to. I would like. I'd give. Well, okay, I wouldn't give my life to watch that, but I would do a lot of things to watch those two games. Oh God, fingers crossed.
No, it will be a good one. But going back to the World Cup talk of Ireland and all that stuff, and I think if the World Cup was in 2018, I think that might have been the year Ireland could have won it,
I know.
and silenced a few critics, because I really believed, and guys who've been following me for a while would probably know this, because I pumped Ireland up big time, and I really thought they were going in it, and I still did a video possible final or something like that, and it's just the level of game that Ireland produced from a player point of view, and the James Ryans, the Stockdales, as you mentioned. I mean, you got Sexton, one of my favorite rugby players, Conor Murray. You got brilliant people out there. I think it's going to be, and they're still there. It's not like they've gone. It's just adapting to the new coach. So I think it will happen, and we will see something come out strongly.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. You know what I mean? I that's all I can say. I hope so. Fingers crossed. I think we have the potential, as you mentioned. It's just getting used to that new coach.
Yeah, well, you beat the All Blacks, but that's already on its own an amazing accomplishment. I mean, everyone keeps going back, and a lot of people slaughtered me for this. Was the Chicago game? You beat them, and then not too long later you lost. But then I kept saying, this is a different team. The way they're pushing the game, it's just a total different Irish team. And they really did show it in that November game where they just outplayed.
For me,
and it was phenomenal.
Sorry. Yeah, for me that was their peak of 2018. No matter what people say about the Six Nations, I know their performance against England was just impeccable. But for me, that game against New Zealand was Ireland's top of the rock. And can you imagine? Like, that's when the World Cup would have been November. The actual game was November 17th. If the game had been a year earlier, it would have been November 2nd, roughly the final. Dude, we could have done it. But oh well, what can you do? You know.
Unfortunately, as Heinrich says, just unfortunately peaked too soon.
Yeah.
Which is just unfortunate. I just want to go back to William's comment, because he's been commenting quite a few times. He says, if you have to choose one, your favorite South African player, if you have one.
It would have to be basically. I'll give some context. I was at the World Cup final. Absolutely blessed to be there in Japan. South Africa versus England. I was so lucky to be there. And first of all, I've gone blank. I've absolutely gone blank. When the first try was scored by South Africa, that was obviously, absolutely huge. And my dad actually reacted to that try. I don't think I'll ever see him react to a try like that again. But then the Cheslin Kobe try. I mean, for me, not only was that absolutely that was such a powerful moment for me. That's up there with Jacob Stockdale's try against the All Blacks, which for me is like my favorite try of all time, simply because of what it meant. It was the game-winning try. But for this game, it was like the atmosphere, the power behind that try, and not only that, but what it meant. Like Cheslin Kobe, he's a small guy. He sealed that World Cup for England. For South Africa. And also the way in which he got around Owen Farrell, Joe Marler, just like, for me, these people who had kind of broken my heart on many occasions with Saracens and then also with England at the beginning of 2019. Those guys broke my heart way too many times in 2019. So that try just meant so much to me. And that was like one of the most celebrated tries I've ever attended, I've ever been in the presence of. And so I would have to say Cheslin Kobe. But right beside him is Sia Khaleesi and Mapimpi because of their stories In fact,
Yeah.
probably you kind of, I look at Khaleesi and I say maybe Khaleesi because he's so humble. He is so humble. What a man. And I'm a filmmaker, as I mentioned. So that is my dream, one of my dreams, to make a film about that story. Invictus 2, I should call it. But yeah.
Go for
Just,
it. Go for it.
yeah, fingers
What a
crossed one
goal
day,
that
dude. But
is. I
I'd have to
mean,
say Tess and Kobe.
yeah, no, in respect to that, I think that's one of the clips you used in your documentary was the Cheslin Colby, you know?
Yeah, that was it. That was
it
it.
was. And it really was. I'll never forget it. I mean, myself and my buddy Andre, who was commenting, and actually my whole group of mates we were all there together, and it was just a defining moment because when my Pimpy scored, it was great, and I thought, hey, it's going to be great. It's going to be a moment. But then when Cheslin scored, then the emotions went. I think we were crying, we were laughing, we were doing everything, and it just defined so much. And I still went on in the stream and I said to you, people said we couldn't do it. People said we are useless. They said we were this. I got trolled comments in the past saying, Gareth, if you get past 6th place on the world rankings, that will be an achievement for you. Mate, we're now number 1 and champion.
There you go.
It's all those type of comments. Hey, there's a listener badge here. I see coming up. There's one for you. And it was those moments that really made it for me. But I've got a comment on this comment. Heinrich says, Sean's favorite SA player is CJ Stunder.
I saw that. That's golden. Golden. I love it. I flipping love that man. So yeah, CJ's actually one of my favorite players for Ireland. I love. I mean, specifically this Six Nations, he was absolutely incredible. This Six Nations, just to see that man's effort and his personality as well. He's smiling all the time. I love CJ Stander.
You have a story though. Why he wasn't selected?
For which?
CJ Stander. Why he wasn't selected yet? Did you ever hear that story?
No. Sorry for South Africa. Yeah, I think I heard it on your channel vaguely, but I actually don't know the full story.
Because apparently the Blue Bulls, Heinrich, I hope you're listening. I think it was the Blue Bulls before I get that wrong, but they said he was too small or something like that, and then he decided to take his career further.
And
look what he's done for Ireland. I mean, one of the tops. He's just a genius in every aspect of the game. So and unfortunately, it's the thing with South Africa. We've lost a few to these great nations where, I mean, Italy have at least 3 or so. England's always got the odd one. Australia had Clyde Rathbone and a few others. It's our own fault because we never controlled it right. And unfortunately, with quota system, transformation, whatever, definitely were headaches in the past. But now that South African South African rugby is focusing on transformation in a better aspect, which is a good example of Siya Kolisi Mapimpi. We're seeing hope for the future, and we also hopefully going to see less cases of where we see a guy like CJ Stander, who's an outstanding individual player, go play for another country, which is heartbreaking when we watch it. South Africa is not. I love saying it when I do a world squad or when I comment on a team and we talk about a French or Italian squad and we got Van der Merwe or Steenhuisen or whoever it might be. I say that's very, very French or very Italian name there, but South African. So it's just one of those things. But you guys got a good winner there.
Yeah. Bro, that guy is honestly a huge inspiration for me. Just the way he approaches life, the way he approaches the game, the way he approaches his just such a colorful mindset. I love that man. He's a legend, pure legend.
And then, okay, I don't want to keep you too long because we've been at this for almost 2 hours. But just for you guys who's watching, any final questions for our Irish friend over here? But also, I want to touch base, and I know this is totally off topic, of your latest documentary that you've recently released. And the reason why I want to touch base on it is for future guide, because a lot of people who ask me, how do I do YouTube or what's it like or how can I start? And one of the things that really highlighted me out for me in your documentary was where I'm going to call it as you because it was you. You wanted, the whole goal of this was to create content for a positive message. And then the other lady in the video was all about the stunts, getting the views, whereas you were around the actual main story. For future content creators, what's your advice? Because you're a youngster. I mean, you just turned 16, by the way. Happy birthday for that.
Thank you.
Your advice, because I mean, the work you do, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted this video, is it's just outstanding. For, I mean, when I go back to myself at 16, I can't even think of what creative mindset I had then. It was sport. All I wanted to do was play cricket. So that maybe was my goal, and I did achieve it. But when I look at what you're producing, it's absolutely outstanding. So, yeah, your words of encouragement or advice for, I mean, it doesn't even matter what age, a person who wants to do something different, and it doesn't have to be rugby, it can be any type of creation. What would yours be?
I want to make sure. Can you hear me all good? Because oh no, I think our screen went there. We're good now.
You're back now.
Basically, like, so as you mentioned there, all good. I made a short film, makes very dangerous content online, which is all about how extreme you can be in your stunts, etc. And that's what the short film was based about. And it just recently released it. I really appreciate your comments on that. Thank you so much, Gareth. But yeah, it's very present. It's very, like, obviously topical at the moment. It's very current, I should say. And I think for any content creators out there, all I gotta say is, if you want to be positive and if you want to be honest, but you feel you can't because of all the competition that is out there with just what is crazy, what is the most funny, you know, you can grow online creating that type of content without a doubt. Now, it might be more difficult, but I think it shows more to you, because if you look at some of the most popular younger generations that are successful online right now, you do see a lot of the extreme stuff. Like, you see a lot of extreme pranks, etc., etc., etc. But what I'm personally following right now and what I'm seeing is our communities of positivity and self-growth and self-development. They're growing in absolutely crazy ways. And, you know, I think no matter what happens, like, I'm trying to create content right now that is about positivity and stuff. And I'm actually struggling with views at the moment as well. But all I have to do is just work with presentation a little bit. I think I just have to change my thumbnails, titles, and my content a little bit, and I can still be honest while growing online. And for anyone who is thinking of doing it, who is thinking of being honest online and making a positive impact, but is slightly worried that they won't be able to simply because of simply because the most popular stuff is the most extreme stuff. Trust me, you can be positive, you can make a difference while still being positive, while still being honest online. And you don't have to make your content that personal, but I would definitely say bring a bit of your personality into it and bring the positive stuff of your personality into it. That's exactly what people like you, Gareth, are doing. For anyone who's watching this, like, this channel, as you all know, is all about positivity. It's all about loving the sport of rugby. And I think, you know, don't be afraid if that's what you want to share online. That's what the world needs. So try and bring that to your content and trust that no matter what, you will find an audience that will connect with that. And, you know, just, I suppose, just share what's right for you. You know, like, obviously everyone's going to have different perceptions of like what is right to create, what is not. But I think at the end of the day, we all want to be happy, right? So just put that at the center of your content. Just spread the love. You know, do your pranks if you want to, do your stunts, but keep it safe as well. Try to have a positive impact on the world, because just leave it better than when you arrived, as everyone says. I mean, sorry, that was very like rambly, but hopefully you got something out of that. Just spread the positive stuff and trust that you can grow no matter what is being popular online. That's what I would say in a summary.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, and I think that's what a lot of us need to realize, because, and I think, and it's a influencer that's probably inspired a few people. Let's go with Logan Paul, for example. I mean, that man took the world by storm. I loved his old content. He's younger than me, but he was brilliant at what he produced. Then the shit hit the fan, and, you know, all that stuff went on. But an example of a comeback or of recovery of mistakes that you've made is really him, because he's totally transformed his whole generation and creation into something phenomenal right now, which is really great.
Yeah,
And he's making millions. I mean, the views are good, and it's all got to do with an aspect of sport that brought him back because of that whole boxing match with him and KSI. And
yeah,
I mean, if
dude, yeah,
for that, where would he be? He would probably not even be as popular as he was right now. And it just goes back to the power of sport, which is the whole meaning of this whole sport topic, or what we do is just it can bring people together, and it just means, anything's possible. Pick up a camera, don't be afraid, whatever it
yeah,
may be. And that's one of my mottos this whole lockdown, because it's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of hate going around on social media. And I've always said, do something different. I mean, I created a freaking TikTok account and I took it serious about 2 months ago. And it's been the best thing I've ever done, because people get to see
there
the
you go.
humorous side of me, whereas they're used to the motivation in sport. Now they get to see me actually using my height and size and something that maybe they would have been uncomfortable to discuss with me or to mention. Now they see me making a joke or a light of the situation. And that has been my biggest curve, and I've always, or learning curve through this, and I've always passed that on to other people, is saying, do something different,
Mhm.
because that hobby or that experiment could be the greatest thing to finding your all new happiness. It's like I said to you in our meeting before. I was unemployed. I didn't know what the hell was going on, but I had a dream and I had a passion. So I put them two together in a YouTube channel. It took a long time for it to start and all that stuff, but eventually, because that wasn't my priority, was subscribe. It wasn't that. It was just the love of the sport to be able to talk, and that's what took it to another level. And I think that's what you said.
Yeah.
It's just it's so big. Is Michael Lynch talking Irish language here? Oh no, he's saying that.
Yeah, that's
I think he's
exactly what he's saying.
realized.
Yeah, he's wondering. He's wondering what I'm doing here. I think he knows me. I think he knows me. The name sounds familiar. I think I've seen that in my comments before. I think I've
Oh,
seen it.
there
But
you
that's
go.
crazy. But oh, just by the way, someone asked, what is my channel name? My channel name is just Stellar. So
Yeah.
STELLAR. If you look up Stellar and then Sean Treacy, it'll definitely come up. Thank you so much.
The
But
link,
yeah,
the
I
links
was
are
kind
all
of
down below.
hinting. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said the links are all down below. So those who
There you
wanted
go.
to
Perfect. Yeah,
find
links are
out
all in the
more
description. Cheers.
and check all that content that he's creating, especially his documentary. I really want the guys watching this to check out the documentary, because that's what really triggered me. And I'm very grateful that you sent me that Twitter message, because although I've seen your work, it forced me to watch it even more in detail, and it connected to me as you as an influencer and a person and as a creator. And that's why I thought, no, we got to do this. And then when I saw that latest documentary, I thought, no, we've got to have a little bit of a chat in the video.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you. I appreciate that. But just quickly going back, I don't want to hold you too long either. But just quickly going back to what you mentioned there with Logan Paul, like that's kind of what I was hinting at there. He grew with the extreme stuff, right? And now, while he's still like doing the full comedy side, he's definitely got a bit more positivity. He's definitely being more thoughtful of others in his podcasts and his content. So it's completely possible for people to grow. And I would just say to people, like, have good stuff at the center of what you're doing, like Logan has right now. Because, as you mentioned, there's always a negativity in the world. Why not add some light to it? Let's keep it as simple as that.
I mean, that's the thing. And you asked me this question, and it's something that I don't actually often talk about on the channel, but when we hit a low or a downer, I mean, how do we get back up? How do we, decide, all right, now it's time to keep going? And that was a question that you made me actually think about earlier tonight. And it's something I'll bring up now. And maybe you've hit a note like that too in your life. But earlier in the year, I hit a low where I wasn't sure what I was doing. As I said, a year ago this time, I almost gave up YouTube because of a current job situation of management that wasn't working well. And to this day, Monday a year will be when I started my new journey, and it just was crazy, which was awesome. So it just shows when you're feeling down or at the end of the time, or when you're not sure what's going on, you just got to keep fighting. And yeah, have you ever experienced? Okay, you're young, so you've got a long way ahead of you. But
Yeah.
I'm sure there must be challenges of, especially being in school doing this,
Yeah,
or student
exactly.
life.
Like for me, when I first started making videos in back in like what was first year of school, that was very difficult for me. There was a lot of slagging, etc., for my channel, a lot of joking around about it. No one was taking it seriously, kind of thing, and that was very difficult for me. But I just kind of kept making content because I knew that it was what made me happy. And here I am today, absolutely loving what I'm doing. So yeah, like I would just, as you mentioned, keep fighting, keep going. Like that was a huge low for me. And then kind of like last summer, just creatively, I lost inspiration. I wasn't making great content. I didn't really enjoy making the content I was making, and it all just, yeah, it just wasn't great, basically, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden this year, I've been spending time with way more friends, way more people, and that has just been so much better for my inspiration creatively and for my happiness. And I like we talked about it earlier, spending time with people, like you will always have the highs again. So no matter how low things get, no matter how demotivated you get, or no matter how rude people are, no matter how bad situations get, like if you just keep fighting, if you keep optimistic, I 100% believe that things will become good again. You know what I mean? Like same goes for my philosophy towards life. There are some nights that just remind you, or some days that just remind you exactly why you're here. And we're talking existentially here. And
yeah. No,
you
I'm
know,
just
anytime you're down, just remember those times will come again. That's all you got to think about. And the same goes for like stuff with either my channel or your channel. I always have dips creatively. I don't sometimes I get very confused about the content I'm making. In fact, right now I'm still trying to really figure things out, and I've been doing it for like 4 years, you know, so you never really know what's the right way to do things. There will be lows, as you mentioned, but it's all about just keep fighting and trust the good times will come again.
that's the thing. It comes to you naturally, and sooner or later you'll figure it out. And I think that's where we currently are, whether we're confused or not. It's
Exactly.
like I recently thought I wanted to create a sports channel on its own, but it kept leading me back to here, where this is what I created. I'd rather include everything there. Yes, it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but it's something that I enjoy. So it's interesting. LB says here, Gareth, you need to realize these guys grew up with YouTube and making videos. We had none of these luxuries. That's actually a fair comment. But that to come back at that comment is, no matter how old you are, or I mean, I don't count myself as old, I'm 29, but no matter the age difference, it's never too old to pick up a camera and be creative or do something different.
100%, 100%. And I admit that, like, I've been absolutely blessed with the time I was born, and who knows, probably the next generation will be even more lucky than I was. But I am so lucky at the time at which I was born, and to have such technology advances, etc., etc. But like you said, it doesn't really matter. Like, yes, I'm lucky to grow up in an age that I'm naturally more familiar with it, but anyone can become familiar with these things over time. Anyone can learn something new. So, you know, just
Yes,
like no matter what, everyone's got a chance.
couldn't agree more. I think that's a good way to finish, because I'm sure sooner or later we will be back united again, whether it's rugby
Exactly.
or just on a general documentary. So Sean, just thanks a million for taking the
Thank you,
time out
dude.
of
It's
your
been an
day,
absolute pleasure.
for joining us on the stream. I know there's been a lot of comments, and we will get to them. Sorry, I will treat you guys to that tomorrow. But it's been an awesome one. So keep up the good work, mate, and keep fighting. And as I said, guys, links are below. Go check out the channel. Go check out the documentary. There's some good stuff to come, and I look forward to seeing you grow. Maybe in the next few years, you'll be the next celeb on the TV that everyone will be watching. Just remember, you were
Maybe, but I'll
here
never
too
leave
one
you two
day.
behind, as we said. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, bro. Stay safe
cool.
and never give up.
There we go. You
Thanks.
said it. Thanks, Sean. Keep well,
Stay
bud.
stellar, guys. Cheers.
Cheers, man. Well, there you have it, guys. I'll keep on for a bit. It was an awesome stream. I thoroughly enjoyed it. something different, something fun. Nice getting a younger guys thoughts and advice on life in the future. And I think that's a good message for all of us going forward, is that we're not quite sure where life takes us. It could be in your own work, it could be in your own situation. But this kid is 16 years old, and he's got over 42,000 followers. If you go watch his content, it is technically brilliant, and I think you guys will thoroughly enjoy it going forward. It might not be your cup of tea, but go check out the rugby fans. Go check out his documentary. It is definitely worth watching, and you'll hear his commentary. We will definitely be seeing him in the future. But that's going to end it for tonight's stream. Thanks for all who are joining. Sorry that I haven't got to all the comments. I know there's been a lot, but I will be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock South African time to discuss all of this new talks of laws, etc., etc. It was something fun. It was something different to the channel, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. To Heinrich and Dippy, thanks for keeping monitor of the comment section. I do apologize to those who I haven't got to, but it was good. And I look forward to chatting to you all tomorrow, where the braais and the drinks and everything will take place with all the mates around the world. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Yeah, we're on 39 likes and haven't even liked. So shout out Ryan for keeping it up. Thanks, guys. Stay safe, keep active, keep positive, and we'll check you soon. Have a lucky evening further, and don't forget, we'll see you at the live stream tomorrow. Stay safe.